Hi y'all, I'm Max Bass, Camp Director here at Michigan United Conservation Clubs. We are in Lansing behind our office. We have this awesome little nature trail loop that runs through the woods here. We're gonna go for a walk in the woods, see what we can find, see what cool trees and teachable moments we find. So let's go. Hey y'all, look at this super cool tree I found. It's big, I could give it a hug and not even reach all the way around. This is a cottonwood tree. They're super cool and unique because they can grow super quickly and their lifespan is relatively short compared to some other trees. And because of their quick growing, they can dominate a forest relatively quickly because they're so big, they can shade out other growth and kind of take over. Super cool, you can kind of identify them by these really big grooves in the bark, and their leaves are super cool too. They have these sweet triangular leaves, and what's really cool is they have these square stems which cause the leaves to shake in the wind and make a whole bunch of noise. Sweet, what a beautiful tree. Oh man, look at this monster of a tree. Now it might not seem very big, but this is an eastern ironwood. They're called ironwood because the wood is so dense and strong, and it also is super slow burning, so it makes some great firewood. But the reason I always remember it is because if you look at the way that it's built, it is almost built like a really strong muscle, and if you were to touch this tree, it's not going anywhere. It is super strong, super sturdy ironwood. So, we've come across one of my absolute favorite trees. This is the white birch, or the paper birch. As you can tell, this one's clearly pretty dead, which is, you know, dead trees happen. There's still homes and, you know, a source of food for other animals. As we can see here, there's an awesome pileated woodpecker hole, and which means that it was eating some sweet bugs out of here. Bugs were using it as a home, bird was using it as a buffet. It's awesome. But what's really cool about this tree is this white bark. It's super thin, it peels off like paper, and I'm gonna peel it off of this tree because it's dead. I would never, and you should never, peel any bark off of a living tree. So what's really great about this bark is that it's paper thin and it's super flammable. You can start a fire with this stuff even when it's wet. So if you haven't checked out our one match fire video, go check that out, find some paper birch and start a sweet fire. So right here we've come across one of my favorite pine trees. This is called a Scotch Pine. What makes them so unique and cool is that the bark starts down here as a dark brown, and as it grows and moves up the tree, you can see that the bark turns this orange. Now a lot of people sometimes think that the orange bark is it's dying and losing its bark, but that's just how it grows. It just has a really cool, almost orange vest on at the top. So this is a Scotch Pine. And when we were looking at the Scotch Pine, we came across this. And what this is evidence of a squirrel, which is pretty cool to see the evidence of our local wildlife. So this is the remnants of a black walnut, and what most likely happened is a squirrel sat up here and picked apart this black walnut to get the tasty, yummy stuff inside. So right here, if you've ever heard the phrase, leaves of three, let it be, this is what we're talking about. This is poison ivy. Now, poison ivy is not fun, thus the name poison ivy. So avoid touching it at all costs. So what happens is inside this plant, there are these oils, and when they get on your skin, they can create a rash, they can make you super itchy. It's actually a super cool defense mechanism that these plants have adapted to survive. Now, if you're super allergic to poison ivy, you can have a reaction just by coming in close contact with it. If you're not super allergic, you have to actually break the plant and get the oils on your skin. I'm not really sure what applies to me, so I'm gonna keep my distance. And when I go home later today, I'm gonna bathe in some anti-poison ivy stuff. So we have come across another great tree. This is a white pine tree. They are super cool pine trees. There's a lot of different kinds, but the best way to tell a white pine apart from the others is their needles always come in bunches of 5. And just like the word white, it has 5 letters. So W-H-I-T-E, 5 needles, boom, easy. If you were to draw an outline of this tree, all the branches kind of curve up. So as you draw that outline, it would almost look like a white puffy cloud in the sky. So this is our white pine. If you ever find one leaking sap and you need to start a fire, you can scrape some of that sap off and it lights up really well and will burn kind of like a torch. So right here, we have this adorable little baby oak tree. And you can tell an oak tree by the way it is. No, really, their leaves are a great way to identify them. So oak trees have leaves with these lobes, and these lobes are kind of rounded, like the tips of a cloud, right? Clouds are light and fluffy. You could imagine this floating across the sky. And so white oaks, where red oaks would have points on the end. So this is a nice little white oak. Hopefully in the coming years they will grow big and strong and be a beautiful tree here in our little backyard. All right, we just found our white oak. Now we found our red oak. Red oaks, you can tell those difference, like I mentioned earlier with the lobes. These have much pointier lobes than our white oak. And also, if you take a look at the bark, you can tell that it looks different. Now, when trees are young, their bark looks completely different when they're older. So when this tree gets a lot older, these kind of almost snakes running up of it will be really big grooves in the tree. But for now, it's smooth baby bark. So as we continued on our walk, we have come across this flower with this beautiful honeybee out here trying to get some pollen so we can bring it back to make some sweet honey. We're gonna just let him chill, and if you be nice to these bees, they'll be nice to you. Well, it's been an absolutely gorgeous walk in the woods today. We saw all sorts of trees, we saw evidence of wildlife, we saw our honeybee, we even found some trash. So when you're out in the woods, if you find something that doesn't belong, take it out with you. Be better than the person before you. Thanks for coming. Hope you have a wonderful day. Let us know what kind of cool stuff you find on your walks.